Hi, good evening. I'm so glad to be presenting here for the Board of Directors, and we welcome you to our May 27th, 2020 meeting, 6:30. And I'd like to ask Jane Deal if she would call to order our meeting with the salute to the flag.
Sure, so we all can stand.
All right.
Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jane. Tom, we look forward to your CEO report.
Great, good evening. It's good to see everybody. It's good to be in a regular board meeting. We've done a couple of special board meetings, and it's good to be at a regular board meeting tonight. And I'm going to give an extended CEO report because we haven't spoken in a while and we have a lot to talk about. So we want to start with an update on what we've been doing with COVID. Beach City's Health District has been serving the community for over 65 years, and I couldn't be prouder for the way in which we've been able to pivot in the last 3 months and bring our substantial resources to bear on COVID. We were able to shift and focus on COVID-19 for the last 3 months, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, and then we're going to talk about some other things that are starting back up. We're not reopening our physical building, but we've been hard at work virtually, and so we're going to see some of our other major projects. We're going to provide an update on that, but we'd like to start with talking about COVID-19 and what we've been doing there. So what we do, we meet 4 to 5 times a week. We've talked about this at our last meeting as part of our district operations center or our DOC. We're following the way in which FEMA wants us to handle these types of emergencies. So we start off each morning with a state of COVID-19, where we talk about what's happening with the number of cases in our community and the number of cases in the county. And so you can see there that we have 48,700 total cases in LA County, with 2,195 deaths in LA County. For the beach cities, we are at 244, and that's split 29 Hermosa Beach, 77 Manhattan Beach, and 138 in Redondo Beach. And then unfortunately, we do have 12 deaths in the beach cities, 2 in Hermosa Beach, 2 in Manhattan Beach, and 8 in Redondo Beach. So a lot of colors here, so I just kind of want to orient you on what we're seeing here. So we have the 3 cities. You have Hermosa Beach in green, you have Redondo Beach in blue, and then you have Manhattan Beach in red. And so you can see there's a slight incline there with Redondo Beach. These are cumulative totals, so you're not going to see a bell-shaped curve like we've talked about in the past, but what we're looking for is a flattening. You can see Torrance there is starting to maybe flatten a little bit, where in the past we were seeing Torrance on an incline. So we're looking for the slope here to kind of get a sense of the number of new cases being reported. You can see there that the black line is LA County, and so it still has a fairly steep slope. And then you can see surrounding us, you can see Hawthorne in orange and Inglewood in yellow. And so those communities in LA County are still experiencing new cases. Now there's additional testing, and so of course that relates to the number of new cases, but we are watching this closely. This is what, of course, LA County is watching as they follow the state and decide whether or not to move through the different stages of the reopening plan that the state has set out. And so this is what we watch closely each day as we try to get a sense of what's happening with new cases, what's happening with a number of deaths being reported. So just want to talk a little bit about how we're organized and the District Operations Center and the BCHD staff. So this was a Zoom meeting that we had with our whole staff. So you see everybody on there at the first one. I think we have over 100. I couldn't get on because we maxed out at 100, which is awesome. And then I finally got in there. And so this is our team here. We do these Zoom meetings with staff every other week. And then on the off week, I do a video and an email to staff to update them on what's happening. But every other week, we do a big picture meeting or an all hands meeting where we have everybody on board. So there's our team there that, again, I couldn't be prouder of. So within the first week of activating the DOC, which was right around March 15th, we set the objectives for what we were going to try to achieve during this emergency. And so that's what you do with this type of arrangement that we have in emergency planning. And so I'm just going to read these quickly because this is what has been guiding our operations and guiding basically everything we do around COVID are these objectives. So we work with partners to establish a South Bay COVID-19 testing site, identify at-risk older adults in the community, provide healthy adults an opportunity to be of use to the community, like errand volunteers, continue to disseminate timely and accurate information to the community, and then provide health and well-being tips and tools, and then provide health recovery planning and implementation for BCHD operations in the community. So we're going to talk a lot about recovery. That's what everybody's interested in right now, is when our business is going to open. And so that's something that we've been very involved with, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So as far as testing, we've been doing you have different types of testing. So we have the diagnostic testing. And so this tests if you currently have an infection. This is the type of test that we're doing at the South Bay Galleria, and we'll talk about our numbers there in a moment. Antibody testing or serologic tests, check your blood for antibodies, test if you have had a previous infection. We are currently not doing this type of testing in the community. We are looking at maybe assisting some of our 3 cities as they look to do this type of testing for first responders. We have participated in a research study that was done by USC. And so that happened here in the South Bay, thanks to the work of Jacqueline Sun and others. And so that was something that happened a few weeks ago. So feel real good about what we're doing with testing and leading the way with testing, with research, as well as providing diagnostic testing. So we opened on April 3rd. We've done 15,000 tests there, over 15,000 tests at the Galleria. I think I did the math quickly the other day. I think that's around 3% of the total tests in LA County. So not insignificant, and we're pleased to be participating in that. You can see that we have our staff, I recognize some of them even through the masks from AdventurePlex. So you can see how we've shifted our staff from AdventurePlex or from the Center for Health and Fitness when they're not providing services in those areas to come over and provide service at the testing site. The other thing that we've been doing, again, tying back to those operational objectives that I mentioned, is really assistance, information, and referrals. We turned our hotline, which is 310-374-3426, extension 256. We turned that really into a hotline or lifeline, if you will, out to the community. We've been using that for years, but we really published this and made this known. And you can see that we've handled almost 1,000 calls, 981 calls by staff. We've been running errands. We've done almost 500 errands by staff. And then we've done 328 visits, errands, and calls by volunteers. So you can see that we're connecting to the community, especially the at-risk population. So along with testing, this has been sort of what I call our other major operation out in the field, if you will, where we're running errands and we're serving the needs of our community. So these are partnerships that we've been able to do, and we've been able to take online a lot of our things that we do. You can see Alex Gray there. That was part of some of the outreach that we've been doing with South Bay Families Connected. You can see some of the work happening with the Gardens and the Salvation Army. You can see that we're pushing our mental health programs. And so you can see all of the work that we've moved online. So we've moved into this virtual environment, and it was something that we've really basically done here in the last couple of months, and it's been a huge area of focus for us. Just quickly talking about some of the programs, one of the things that we've been doing is obviously we've been doing errands, but we've also now been doing meals. We quickly worked with Salvation Army to give them more funding for the Meals on Wheels program that they do. But then we've also doing meals ourselves, and we just launched that program a little over a week ago, and we've delivered almost 100 meals. And so that's something that we're very proud of. You can see what's happening in the virtual environment here with virtual classes. We've been doing care package. We've been doing the delivery. We've been doing some of the mental health programs of neighbors helping neighbors. Of course, we've been publishing Mental Health Awareness Month. We've been doing the social shares on social media. And so we're very pleased with, again, our shift to the virtual environment, which has been required here in the last couple of months. So this is guidance. I was just on a call with the Disaster Council in Redondo, and this is something that businesses are continuing to ask for, and we just can't get this message out enough. We were doing this in early March, and I think actually in February when we were starting to have COVID on our radar. This was messaging that we got out. It still stands true today, maybe even more so today as we reopen. Others are welcome to chime in, but the virus has not gone away. It is still there, as we saw from the numbers from the tracking sheet earlier. And so these are the best things that we can all be doing as health ambassadors. Wash your hands frequently, avoid touching your face or eyes, self-isolate if you are sick. That will be probably one of the best tools we have as we reopen. If people are feeling the least bit sick, they need to isolate. And then continue to practice physical distancing, especially by staying at home. I think we've seen that that's been very effective here in the last 3 months. I think there's discussion about it not being sustainable from an economic standpoint, but I think where people can, we would urge people to continue to physically distance while staying socially connected. That's been a message that we've been pushing out. And then wear a face covering when you go out. I think people are sort of wondering what the direction is. For me, the direction is pretty clear. The county says when you go out and you think that you're going to come into contact with somebody, you should have a face mask on. And so there are different interpretations about you should have a face covering on. And so there's different interpretations about, well, if I'm outside, do I really need it? And so we're continuing to work with people regarding face coverings and how we can all be safe. And I've said this before, I've been involved with a couple of emergencies, and this is the first one where our behavior can really influence the outcome of the emergency. That's very rare. We might have a cat visit us here in a minute. So I'm just removing her gently. I'm not throwing her. The planning commissioner did. So I just want to be clear on that. So I lost my train of thought for a moment, but so maybe we'll move to the next slide.
And Tom, if you mind going back a slide.
Sure.
So I think the last comment you were making was how this is an emergency where our behavior
yes.
can really change. Do you want to continue that thought, and then I'll ask?
Yes, thank you for that. Where our behavior can actually affect the outcome, not just for ourselves, but for others. And so whether, if this was maybe with a fire, if you're clearing brush away from your house, if you're, in a fire, maybe that's where you can affect the outcome. But this is one that everybody has a say in. And that's why we talk about being a health ambassador, is that not only are you protecting your own health, but you are protecting other people's health and stopping the spread of this virus. And that's very rare. I have not been involved in an emergency where people's behavior is so important in determining the severity and the length of the emergency. And so as people are anxious to get back outside and recreate and anxious to get back to work and open their businesses, again, their behavior will affect how that goes and what happens with the virus, because the virus is still here.
So
And can I,
Tom, sorry, go
Vince,
ahead.
may I ask a question? May we let him get through his slides and then take our questions at the end? Would that be okay with the board?
This is feedback on this
Okay.
specific
All
slide.
right.
I can hold till the end and we can come back to the slide.
But if you go ahead, please.
You think I should go ahead?
Go ahead.
Okay. So Tom, I think one of the things that has changed obviously is as we're opening up, people are going out and about more. And in my community, as I've talked to different people, I think there's a few themes emerging of misunderstanding. One of them is the idea that if somebody has a mask on, they don't need to social distance. And so I think there needs to be something in our messaging here that helps reinforce that it's a mask plus social distance. So I don't know if there's a plus sign between these two or something where, you know, I think in people's minds, they're like, well, if I'm social distancing, I don't need a mask. If I'm going close to people, then I need a mask. And that not realizing that it's a mask plus distancing equals the stopping the spread. So that's one point. The other point is that the home logo, I'm not sure if it applies anymore because people don't really think they need to be home anymore. People are starting to really go out. And as the rules change within the next few weeks, even, the home logo may not make sense. It may make sense to have a logo of two people with a 6 foot apart, you know, arrows or something. So it's very clear that keep that distance when you're out. And then my final piece of feedback is, and I mentioned this before, you know, in LA County, we're having over 40% of the spread happening from asymptomatic cases. This is what I heard from Dr. Ferrer on the Friday call. And so this self-isolate if you're sick suggests that if you're not sick, you don't need to isolate. And so if there's some way to weave in, you know, this asymptomatic concept in here, because I think people think that, well, if I'm not sick, then what's the problem?
Right.
So there's some misconceptions out there that seem to be really coming to light, and I think we have an opportunity to help clear those misconceptions.
Yeah, great input. We can make those changes to our guidance and make sure that we're being clear moving forward. That's great input. Thank you.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay, next slide. So these are just, again, some of the posts, some of the material that we've been putting out, constantly putting it out weekly. This is some of the health promotion that we've been getting out with daily social media posts, website updates, weekly newsletters, and just as an ongoing, you know, as needed basis. So if there's a particular topic like testing, we might do a special piece on testing in addition to our weekly newsletter. So this is something that we've been pushing out. We know this is a time when we're all getting lots of material, and maybe I'm a little biased, but what I hear from people anecdotally, as well as the numbers of clicks that we're seeing, is that people really are relying on this information and are using it to help them guide their daily lives during this time. So I want to talk a little bit about recovery. You know, recovery is a technical term, you know, within FEMA and SIMS, which is the Standardized Emergency Management System. So this recovery is after some sort of incident. And so where we are right now is we're heading into recovery, and we've talked about this a little bit, but the threat still exists. And so that's very rare. Usually after an earthquake, the ground is not shaking anymore and you're in recovery and you're rebuilding buildings and assessing damage. And so recovery and reopening, we saw this one coming. We've been working on this for well over a month with the chambers and the cities to really work with them and the residents in the community to get out in front of this concept of we're going to be reopening and not you know, isolating at home while the threat still exists. And so that's happening as the beaches are open and some of the businesses are open. And so as far as for residents, again, follow the health guidance by avoiding large crowds, wearing a face covering when you're outside of your household, avoid touching your face and wash your hands and stay home. Stay home if you're sick. Again, that's the message we were talking about earlier. That continues to be the message with the residents. With businesses and organizations, we've worked with the 3 chambers of the beach cities to help them follow the LA County Department of Public Health guidance. We've worked with them to do a survey their businesses. I think over 400 businesses between the three cities took that survey, and we talked about that a little bit last time. And then we've developed a reopening guide that helps people reopen and businesses reopen. One of the things that we're hearing quite a bit about lately is, well, I really don't know what the rules are and there's no easy way to get guidance. So what we've done is we've gone through and put that all in one place. And so that is on our website at bchd.org, and it's under the reopening guide. And so people can quickly go there and see what the regulations are, see what the requirements are. Again, we think working with businesses to allow people to telework, if that's something that makes sense, we're looking at that very closely with Beach Cities Health District. I think certainly my eyes have been opened in the last 3 months that teleworking does work. We've been very effective in the virtual environment. And so moving forward, that's something that we're going to look to continue at the health district. And we have a team of staff that's working on our own reopening plan, and that will involve teleworking for the Beach Cities Health District. And then I think one of the things that we're seeing is and people talk about the new normal. I think our experiences will be different when we go back to school or we go back to houses of worship, or when, I think we've all seen it when we go out shopping, that there are different rules and different things happening here. And we think that that's going to be the case for a while. So another huge area of focus for us, which fortunately was something that we had begun to launch already, was the mental health and happiness priority that you all set as a board. So we were just rolling that program out when the virus hit. And so we really think that this is going to be a huge area moving forward. What we do know about the three beach cities is from our work with Gallup is that stress is a health issue for the three beach cities. And so with a pandemic, obviously, we're going to see heightened levels of stress on top of already having stress in the three beach cities. And so this will be continued to be an area of focus for us. We have and you can see, we have the tools in place, whether it's our partnerships with the cities or whether it's our partnership with the care that we provide to older adults, or whether it's the partnership that we have with the schools or the gardens, the connections with the kids. We have all the tools in place to really impact our community's mental health and happiness as we move forward. And so we're going to continue to push on those resources and continue to implement those programs as we go forward. And again, it's that concept that we can all be health leaders. This isn't just the county doing this to us, or the state doing this to us. This is us affecting the outcome of the pandemic, and it really is up to us, and we're in it. We're all in it together. And I know those are kind of cliches, but it really is true. And so this is the message that we're pushing out: is that we can all be health leaders, and not just lead by example, but lead in a way which keeps us and others safe. So that was a quick overview of the programs. Obviously, huge question for cities and counties and us is the finances and the financial impact of what's occurred. And so at your special meeting a couple of weeks ago, we talked about this. We just wanted to review this briefly for this fiscal year, which ends on June 30th. We've been obviously tracking costs very closely. So you can see our budgeted revenues there of 14.9 million for 2019-20. You can see the projected expenses we had. So if you look at the middle column there of the budget, we were anticipating a operating net income or fund balance of about 718,000. That's intentional, where we built that in case something came up during the year, so that we weren't sort of too close to our expenses when it came to our revenues. So we had that cushion built in, and so you can see by the first column there, the estimated actual, that we've used that up. And so we're projecting, that we're going to break even for this fiscal year. And we talked about this last time. So you can see that is a variance from the budget of about 700,000. And that is due to the COVID expenditures. And so on the revenue side, you'll see our revenues are down a little bit. They're down about 6%. Property tax stays constant. What we're seeing as far as impacts there on revenue is fees that we normally would have received from the Center for Health and Fitness or Adventureplex. We are seeing some lease revenue has decreased a little bit as well. So that's what's impacting some of our revenues. Then we did just want to sort of break out exactly what's happening with our expenses during COVID-19. So you can see in April, we spent 700,000 in labor. Through June, we think we're going to be around 1.4 million in labor. Again, this is related to COVID and what's happening. Not everything is going to be reimbursable by FEMA, but we're hopeful. We'll have to see. We're going through that process. We've already submitted reimbursement, but we're hopeful that if we receive 75% from FEMA, that would be around 519,000. We might also be able to receive some funds from California as well. And that is not included in the prior slide. So if we could go back just a moment. So the reimbursement there would be in addition to that 15,000 that we're projecting. And then you also see the health funds and grants. I just wanted to point that out. You see the $125,000 variance. That number there is related to the grants that you all made available at your last special meeting for nonprofits that are providing service directly related to COVID-19. So that's $100,000. And then we also provided an additional $25,000 to Salvation Army for Meals on Wheels. And so that's the $125,000 difference there. So you can see everything that we've been doing in the last 3 months related to COVID. And we are anticipating that we will break even, not counting potential reimbursement from FEMA and the state of California. So we feel good about the finances. We feel good that we were able to shift the services that we provide. Again, we were able to be nimble and flexible where we had some services or programs end, if you will, at Adventureplex and Center for Health and Fitness. We were able to shift those to virtual programs. We were able to call all of our members at the CHF. We were able to outreach to the community, and then we were able to use those resources that weren't working at those facilities and assign them to tasks that we needed during COVID-19, such as testing and the errands. And so we were able to reassign almost all of our employees. There were some employees at Adventureplex that we would have brought on board for summer programs. We obviously did not bring them on board for those programs because at this time those won't be happening. But we feel like we were able to, again, reallocate our resources and really shift our focus to what was needed by the community at this time. So just as far as what's next, we're now kind of in this interesting place where COVID-19 is still going on, but other health priorities that you have are on our mind. Of course, the Healthy Living Campus is on our mind, and it's something that we want to get back to the community with. We had planned, as I think everybody knows, I think it was March 19th was the date that we were going to do a large meeting with the community regarding the Healthy Living Campus. And so we've now scheduled that as a virtual meeting on June 17th. And we've scheduled that as a regular board meeting of the board because we need to make up some board meetings from March and April. We are not anticipating any action at that meeting. And I just want to be real clear about what's happening with the Healthy Living Campus. I know there continue to be questions about that. I think May of 2017 marks when we formed the community working group. And so it has been 3 years that we've had the community working group in place. In 2017, we presented a plan to the community. We heard feedback about that plan. We went back to the drawing board for a year, working very closely with the community, doing focus groups. We then unveiled another plan in 2018. We began the, and we had lots of discussions about that. And then we started the EIR process, or the Environmental Impact Report process, on the master plan for the Healthy Living Campus. And so we started that EIR process. We received comments as part of that, where you sort of roll out what you're planning to do, and you get input regarding the scope. And we did that. We heard lots of comments from the community about the 15-year master plan. We also then at the same time initiated an innovation study, which was happening concurrently. We began to hear some input and comments back from that innovation study. And then of course we had the COVID come in. And so prior to COVID, we were planning to come talk about the master plan and have a discussion with you before we really went to the next stage of the EIR, which is to develop a project description and really perform the detailed analysis of the EIR. We wanted to come have a discussion about, did you want to look at perhaps a smaller project, or based upon what we were hearing from the community and what we were seeing in the market and hearing from our experts. And so we had planned for that in March. We're now planning for that in June. And our plan would be to come to you with some options where we will be recommending that we reduce the number of residential units at the Healthy Living Campus, that we reduce the assisted living units. We're going to be recommending some options where it could be built quicker and would not extend for as long a period of time, because that was something that we were hearing in the early stages of the EIR. So we're going to recommend these options to you and show them to the community. We're going to take it to the community working group on June 15th. There have been lots of questions about the finances. We've been talking with our finance committee. I remember we had a big meeting a year ago, March, with finance committee. We've now are in the process of completing financial analysis. And so we're going to present that to the finance committee on June 16th. And then we're going to come to you in the community on the 17th with all of this information and have a discussion about, do you want to look at a revised master plan and a reduced scope of the master plan, and depending on what you decide to do with that, then we would do the EIR process. So I think some people might be confused that in June that we're making a decision about the Healthy Living Campus. The only thing that would be happening in June is you all would be providing direction about a reduced scope to consider as part of an EIR process that would take another 4 to 6 months to complete. And so just want to be very clear about that. I know that even before COVID, there was stress and concern about this project. And as I've shared before, that concerns us very much. And so we have been listening. I know the proof will be in the pudding when people see the options. We're working on those. I know people are very anxious to see those options and to see what's going on. And we're working on that, and we're going to be providing that information to the public in advance of the meeting on June 17th, so that people will have an opportunity to comment before the meeting, and they will also have an opportunity to comment during the meeting. And so sorry to go into a little history there of the Healthy Living Campus. I actually forgot the name of it a month ago, but I now know the name of the Healthy Living Campus, and it's something that we're focusing on, and we are listening. And I hope that people will see that when they see some of the revised, reduced scope options that will be coming to the board and the public in June. That's a quick, not so quick, but that's an overview of what we're working on. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Tom. I want to verify something just because we are doing this for public comment by email. I'd like to call on that and then for board discussion. Is that appropriate?
Yes, and maybe I could suggest something on that.
Yes.
This would be comment that would be on anything that was covered within the executive director's report. It was a broad report covering a number of different issues. But also, because this is a regular meeting, there's an opportunity for the public to really comment on anything, even if it's not on the agenda, if it's within the jurisdiction of the district. So the email comments that we're inviting now would cover, again, anything that is within the scope of the executive director's report, or anything in addition to that, any additional comments that are not on the agenda, but within the scope of the district's jurisdiction.
I'd like to clarify.
There will be, as we take other items on the agenda, there will be an opportunity for comment on those items as just prior to any vote on them. But I wanted to make sure the public is aware of that.
So we are moving directly into public discussion for items not on the agenda?
We are, although we haven't finished the executive director report. So the public comment can cover both at the same time. So it'd also be appropriate at this point for the board to ask any questions. This is not the executive director's report is not a discussion item, but it is appropriate for the board members, if they have questions, to ask questions, or to also make referrals to staff or to the executive director related to the executive director report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lundy. If you don't mind, I'd like to start with Noel, if you have any questions for Tom and the CEO report. Hearing none. Vanessa?
Yeah,
Oh, there he is.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, no, Vanessa.
I was wondering if the Adventureplex staff is looking at doing any kind of virtual camp or outdoor physically distanced activities or anything like that?
I know that they're reviewing a reopening plan. I don't know, Jackie, if you'd like to respond to that.
Hi, Jackie Berling, Chief Operations and Innovations Officer. Cindy Foster, the General Manager, and her team, Asia Sapien, and for Manager for Adventureplex. We are looking at various programs that we could offer virtually and looking at all the alternatives that we can consider to be in compliance with any of the state mandates, but also to be able to survey the community to see what their needs are and really what parents would feel comfortable doing and what they'd feel comfortable as far as having programming over at Adventureplex. But we are working with our team to look at all of that right now and what the opportunities will be.
Great. The other question I have for staff is, what was the theme of the volunteer brunch?
The theme of the volunteer brunch, I'm trying to remember. Sorry, I can't remember it up.
I owe the volunteers a picture of me in whatever costume I would have worn to that event. And I missed my timing on that, but I would still like to find out from staff what the theme would have been so that I could prepare. And
yes, we did a large Zoom call with the volunteers in April. That feels like a long time ago. So we were able to see and talk to all of them, but we will let you know what the theme was.
And then the other thing I wanted to reiterate, you already said it, none of this is optimal. We are all living constrained lives in ways that we never expected, and it's very difficult financially, emotionally, physically, everything. And at the same time, I am stunned and impressed and very proud of our staff. You have all been very nimble. You stole my word, Tom. I had it written down before you said it, but you've both been very nimble in finding new ways to do all of the things we need to do with all of the people we take care of. And you're doing it with compassion and grace. And I'm really glad you're there. And I'm really glad that I can refer people to you when I meet them in the community and they need help or they don't know about it. And I just really want to reiterate that for staff, that I'm very grateful.
Thank you, Vanessa. Jane.
I don't have any questions. I just want to ditto what Vanessa said.
Okay, thank you. Fish?
I already covered my feedback on the one slide, but I guess ditto to Vanessa and Jane. What I'm most impressed with it, at the time that our country was struggling with getting testing online, that was literally the time that the operations switched over, the DOC was formed. And it's pretty remarkable how quickly the team was able to ramp up testing, and getting 15,000 tests done and being 3% of LA County's tests is very impressive. Something to be very proud of, to step up in a time of emergency in a healthcare capacity. So really well done, Tom and team.
Yes. And my final comments, I think clearly on behalf of all the board members that you heard, the response and your knowledge and ability to pull this together, and the staff who were so resilient. Many people were walking away from being able to help others early in COVID, and this team stepped forward. So really appreciative, and congratulations. All right. Now I'm going to talk about our public comments. So for this meeting, this will be by email only. And so to participate during the meeting, you would submit in an email to the following. It's communications@ B as in boy, C as in cat, H as in Henry, D as in dog. So communications@bchd.org. And we would ask that when you send this email or you submit this email, please put on the subject line public. Please also note the comment item number. So that will be on the agenda. And during the meeting, prior to the close of public comment on an item, it will be read into the record during public comment, which is now. And this will be public comment for 3 minutes and will be read by Mr. Dan Smith. And once those 3 minutes are up, Mr. Smith will stop reading the submitted comments. So that will be public comments during this time will be on the CE report or any items that are not on the agenda, as well as we'll take those other items that you may have at the time they are come on the agenda, if they're once we get to those other items. So with that, Dan, would you proceed?
Thank you. Dan Smith, Communications Manager, BCHD. With regard to your comments, Dr. Bholat, one person has submitted 3 comments. And I will read as much of those as I can, but they are only allotted the 3 minutes. I believe all the other comments that have been submitted, and there are another 6 beyond those, should all be able to meet the 3-minute requirement. And we start with the first comment. It is from Mark Nelson. He is the individual who submitted 3 separate comments. On May 20th, he wrote, "Dear Board President Bholat and members of the board, Beach City's Health District is a preventive health agency serving the residents of Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach, and Redondo Beach. On behalf of the neighboring residents of BCHD, I am writing in opposition to the proposed overdevelopment of the BCHD site and the severe health impacts associated with its 15 years of demolition, construction, air pollution, traffic, and chronic stress. BlueZones.com states that chronic stress is the silent killer. The neighboring residents supported Redondo Beach's grant request to the California Natural Resources Agency through Prop 68 for wetlands restoration and creation of open and green spaces on the AES Redondo Beach site. The neighboring residents agreed that additional park and open space in Redondo Beach will greatly enhance the quality of life and contribute to enhanced physical and social emotional health outcomes. We look forward to an immediate cessation of activities associated with the BCHD HLC project. We also encourage the BCHD site purchased by the taxpayers for South Bay Hospital District to be remediated and transformed into open and green space as quickly as possible. We appreciate your consideration to not destroy the surrounding neighborhoods with your risky $500 million plus real estate scheme. Respectfully, Mark Nelson. And then today at 2 o'clock, he sent another message. And this one is 11 issues for BCHD to incorporate into any revised HLC design. Number 1, only 5% of the 430 RCFE units are expected to be for 90277 per BCHD marketing consultant prospect study. Yet 90277 suffers the entire beach city's owner's burden. 90277 continues to be exploited on economic and environmental justice grounds. 90503, a non-owner, is also subject to economic and environmental injustice. Number 2, the owners of BCHD, Manhattan, Redondo, and Hermosa Beach are expected to occupy only 20% of the 430 units, parentheses 86, end parentheses, based on the same study, yet the chronic stress from 10 to 15 years of construction and 50 plus years of operation creates economic and environmental injustice for the owners of BCHD. Number 3, 90277 has suffered over 60 years of construction, operation, and chronic stress, parentheses, bluezones.com silent killer, end parentheses, from SBHD and VCHD, and now deserves financial reparations for the economic and environmental injustice and diminished health explicitly caused by the silent killer, including no further development on the BCHD site. Number 4, BCHD has no moral authority to change the operation of the campus from a hospital to a residential facility. In the 1950s, voters explicitly authorized a much-needed hospital with emergency services that subsequently failed, parentheses, see LA Times article, end parentheses. And there was no expectation or authorization of a century or more of operation following the change to residential senior apartments. The economic and environmental injustice to the surrounding neighborhoods was neither contemplated nor approved by voters. Number 5. According to the City of Redondo Beach records and the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, SBHD apparently elected not to be the lead agency for CEQA on the 520 North Prospect building. There's the 3-minute timer. In the 1980s, as the City of Redondo Beach conducted the environmental impact analysis consistent with its issuance of the same discretionary permits that are required for the HLC. As a result, BCHD should also have elected not to have been the CEQA lead on the HLC. CEQA lead activities should be immediately relinquished to the City of Redondo Beach. It is unethical and immoral and potentially unlawful to be shown to pick and choose when to be the CEQA lead agency based on perceived advantages to the district. That completes item number 5. He has another 6 items and another post that he sent in. Those will be submitted in writing for the record.
So we'll get copies of that so we can review it.
Correct.
You read it kind of fast, so I'd really like to look at that. Thank you.
I was trying to get as much of it in as I could.
Got it.
I will slow down from here out.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, the next letter, the next comment is from Abbas Khani. It was submitted on May 26th. Bear with me as I go through my email here. This was submitted on May 22nd, excuse me, at 3:29 p.m. This email is directed to each BCHD directors and shall be recorded as my public comment on May 27th, 2020 virtual board meeting. My name is Abbas Khani and my house is located at 5674 Towers Street. By all accounts, my house is going to be ground zero of BCHD massive overdevelopment. To me, any decision made in absence of full in-person participation of concerned Torrance residents regarding the 545-person occupancy living campus has no legal basis and shall be considered as null. Shall BCHD decides to launch this massive 15 years construction project, BCHD and its chosen construction company have to adhere to my July 27, 2019 Living Campus Master Plan EIR comments/requests. And in addition, BCHD shall certify in writing that my house shall, in all caps, be habitable with no adverse effects on the people residing in my house during each and all phases of this undertakings, day and night. Abbas G. Connie.
Thank you, Dan.
Yes.
That's all that's what we've received.
No, there are five more.
5 more, thank you.
5 more. The next one is from Kenneth Yano, and that was submitted May 27th, 2020 at 1:44 p.m. From Ken Yano, Torrance. 15 months ago, the public was introduced to the HLC. Since then, there has been no attempt to publish a plan for the project. Most glaringly absent is the lack of a financial plan. I asked for such a plan in September of 2019 and was told by Mr. Bakaly that the plan would be presented at the next financial committee meeting. There was no plan produced at that meeting, nor at any other meetings. Since the introduction of the HLC concept, the funding has changed from 50% BCHD to 25% BCHD. We have been assured that because BCHD has other things to offer, parentheses, not defined to the public, end parentheses, the unknown partner would allow BCHD to take the lead. I have never known this to happen in business and do not expect that this will be the case. BCHD also has brought on a consultant, Kane Brothers, to help find a partner for the HLC. How can Kane Brothers find a partner without a detailed financial plan? To assume that some private equity firm would agree to a deal without sound financial plans is ridiculous. To assume that a private equity firm would let BCHD, quote, drive the bus, end quote, when they have over a $100 million investment invested is also ridiculous. The board of directors is neglecting its fiduciary responsibility by not asking Mr. Bakaly to present the details of the financial plan to the board and to the public. You should be particularly interested in the time-phased financing of the plan, the financial risks of schedule delays, and the potential income from the assisted living units once in operation. The last item is of particular interest. Details of the projected occupancy rate, the projected costs of operation, and the projected patient costs should be scrutinized by the board. Since you are down to a 25% interest, the income from the project will be half of what was originally projected. In light of COVID-19, the original occupancy projections may be optimistic and the cost of operations may be pessimistic. Since about 40% of the COVID-19 deaths have been in nursing homes, it is time to review whether assisted living investments make sense. BCHD should step back, put the HLC on pause, and reevaluate the project. This project could bankrupt BCHD, and the board needs to take a more active role in scrutinizing the details to prevent this. Next up is from Robert Ronnie. And, okay, he attached them as a PDF. Written public comments of Robert Ronnie on agenda item number 3, which is public discussion. It is well known that BCHD proposes to build an extensive expansion of its campus. BCHD calls its proposal, ironically, a, quote, healthy, unquote, living campus. During these comments, I refer to the idea to build extremely large and inappropriate structures as, quote, the project, end quote. With seemingly no concern for the negative health and safety impacts the project's years of proposed construction will impose on its own employees, the elderly residents of BCHD's current assisted living facilities, as well as the harm inflicted on its neighbors. And against all rational judgment and reason, BCHD is moving headlong toward finalizing plans for the ill-considered project, which seems somehow to have taken on a life of its own. What may be less well known is that BCHD has, over the past decades, engaged in a number of, parentheses, failed, end parentheses, attempts to expand. The latest iteration of these plans began around 2017, and BCHD's efforts continue to date. Over much of 2020, however, there has been minimal or no activity on the project, parentheses, at least that which is visible to the public, end parentheses. Within this context, we arrive at May 22nd, 2020, a Friday before a holiday weekend. On that day, BCHD schedules 5 events with regard to the project to take place over the next 33 days, including 3 of the 5 meetings on consecutive days. And shockingly, BCHD tells us that 1 of the 5 meetings is not public, parentheses, although that secret meeting is seemingly meant to replace a community study group meeting, which BCHD promised to host and which indeed was meant to be public, with BCHD renting a large facility for that purpose, end parentheses. Purportedly, this flurry of new meetings is meant to unveil updated plans for the project, but the public has not yet been provided with a copy of any such new plans. What possible motivation could BCHD have in failing to release the new plans to the public? Why would BCHD attempt to jam any opposition to the project, parentheses, which BCHD knows is substantial, end parentheses, by having 5 meetings in such a short period with minimal notice? Why conceal 1 meeting from the public? The answers are apparent. BCHD claims to act in a transparent manner, but in reality operates as opaquely as possible. BCHD wants to limit information to the public, not fairly and timely disseminate it. They don't want us to have a full and fair opportunity to review what they propose. Finally, BCHD breaks its promise. Replacing a very public study session with some amorphous private meeting is wrong. One can only conclude that BCHD prefers to operate in the dark, disrespecting due process and in a manner which is designed to conceal, not illuminate. All right, our next comment is from Delia Vecchi.
I'd like to ask Tom to clarify that we are having a public meeting and when that one is.
Correct. So as we presented, we have a public meeting of the board. That'll be a regular meeting of the board on June 17th. We then have a finance committee meeting, which is open to the public on June 16th. And then we have a community working group meeting on June 15th. I think that's maybe the meeting that the person is referring to as not public. It's not a meeting of the board, so board members won't be there, but the public will be allowed to participate in that virtual meeting. And so these are all virtual meetings. None of them are private, but they are virtual meetings.
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay, the next comments are from Delia Vecchi. They were submitted May 27th at 5:39 p.m. The following are my comments for non-agenda item. I am planning not to repeat again all the hundreds of reasons expressed for many residents from Redondo and Torrance and by me during many of the Board of Directors meetings against the fake Healthy Living campus. This next paragraph is in all bold. There is no room in Redondo Beach for any more housing or assisted living facilities. This is a city saturated for both. 7 senior housing and 2 assisted living facilities. Besides that, all over the city, the board and care homes, diminishing our quality of life, the value of our properties, putting pressure on our first respondents, and affecting our health. Now it's worse with the cases of COVID-19 inside these facilities. This is in normal type. Nursery homes, memory care, and assisted living facilities account for about 35% of U.S. coronavirus death and possible more. And the tragedy is all these places are in for-profit facilities, but not for love to seniors, ... 99% of seniors like to finish their life at home in USA and around the globe. This next line is all bold. Do the job for what you have been created for health. You are not housing developers. Back to regular type. Save Redondo Beach and Torrance of this tragedy. Stop this 400 units or more now. Thank you for reading my concerns. Delia A. Vecchi, Redondo Beach, District 2. Our next comment is from Ann Wolfson. Hers was submitted on May 27th at 6:29 p.m. To whom it may concern, here are comments for the public comment section. Thank you, Ann Wolfson. At the last Board of Directors meeting in February, CEO Tom Bakaly said, once again, if the Healthy Living Campus is stressing people out, this is a problem for the district, end quote. Clearly, you have more than a problem. In this age of pandemics, now that the unthinkable is our new reality, we have learned hard lessons about developments that warehouse the most vulnerable, both small and large. Senior assisted living and nursing homes have become the new battlegrounds, accounting for half of the deaths in California. The evidence is as close as Kensington and Silverado. We've come to better understand the value of aging in place. The overwhelming majority of seniors know this. They desire to be at home. After months of quarantine, lockdowns, and safer at home orders, there is real data that cannot be ignored. One would think a reasonable citizen or the board of directors of the BCHD would take time to reassess and reflect on the best use of resources. Rethink the financials and reassess sustainable business models. Do your best to be cost efficient and lean. That said, we fear that the self-proclaimed Healthy Living Campus is coming back, and quickly. We are living through the worst pandemic in modern times. This project does not warrant a rushed decision that does not reflect what the community wants or needs. Do not push this through, especially at a time when we are not able to meet together face to face. This is your opportunity for thoughtful reflection, not hasty moves. Take the time to do the right thing. Value health over wealth. They are not codependent. Give your constituents the time needed to decide on what we want for the future of our district. And our next comment is the last one I have at this time. It's from Sheila Lamb, and I'm going to compliment Ms. Lamb on redoing the format of her letter for me just in the last 10 minutes. So thank you to her for that. To the BCHD members of the board, these are extraordinary times for all of us, and I support BCHD's effort to partner with LA County by providing personnel to assist the nurses at the testing facility. In addition, BCHD has utilized its communications expertise to be a resource for COVID-19 information and post-health messages in commercial communication channels. BCHD staff should be commended for their efforts and quick response. However, these good works should not overshadow the financial issues, the financial issues that face BCHD going into the future. In 2 of the previous 3 months, BCHD has recorded net losses. In March, the net loss was $197,000, and in April, the net loss was $163,000. Nationwide, there is an expectation that businesses such as exercise facilities, offices, and senior care facilities will continue to experience losses for the near term, perhaps even longer than 6 months. BCHD relies on the aforementioned businesses for revenue. In light of the fact that BCHD's payroll costs have increased by $100,000 per month since March, what plan does BCHD have for cost containment? How will you reduce expenses as your revenues continue to decline? What is your projected shortfall for 2020-2021? How will you balance the budget? As a board member, how will you ensure the financial health of this organization? Speaking of expenses, I am curious to know why BCHD paid Portofino Yacht Club $5,000 on March 12, 2020. How did this expenditure enhance the health of Beach City's residents? While there may be a perfectly good explanation for this, it would be helpful to the public to know why this amount to this yacht club was expended. Thank you, Sheila W. Lamb.
Thank you, Dan.
Yes, that is the final comment I have.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to take our recess with Lauren Nakano and go into an activity break.
Doing meditation.
I just want to note that I've changed my background appropriately.
Lauren, you're muted. Oh, you're good now.
Am I on now?
Yes.
Okay. My screen is frozen, so I apologize. So thank you to the board. Lauren Nakano, I'm the Blue Zones Project Director, and I just want to take the board and the audience through a quick 3-minute breathing space exercise, a practice. So if you wouldn't mind, the first thing to do with this practice, because we want to come into the present moment, is to quickly take a definitive posture where your back is erect, but not stiff, letting the body express a sense of being present and awake, putting your feet on the floor and perhaps your hands in your lap, and resting your gaze or closing your eyes. And the first step is becoming aware of what's going on with you right now, being conscious of what's going through your mind and what thoughts are around you. And here, as best as you can, just noticing thoughts as mental events so that you note them and you note the feelings that are around them. And in particular, turn towards any sense of discomfort or pleasant and unpleasant feelings. So when you have a sense of what's going on around you right now, having stepped out of automatic pilot, the second step is to collect your awareness by focusing on a single act, and that's the movement of your breath. So with me, if you take a deep inhalation in, counting to 4, hold it at the top, and then let it exhale all the way out through your nostrils and your mouth. And really gathering yourself and focusing your attention down in the movements of your belly and the rise and the fall as your breath moves in and out. And the third step is allowing your awareness to expand to the entire body, bringing a more spacious awareness to your experience, and letting the breath be present but in the background. Bringing your attention to the entire length of your body from head to toe, including any tightness or sensations related to holding or bracing. And in this moment, hold your awareness, breathing in and out. And just taking a moment to think of something that you're grateful for, whether it was today, whether it was somebody in your family, a person. And with me, taking one last deep inhalation, holding at the top, and exhaling. And when you're ready, opening your eyes and letting go of this brief practice. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lauren. A much needed and often to be practiced. Thank you. I'd like to turn our attention to item number 5 on the agenda, our committee reports. And we will start with Ish on the Community Health Committee.
Okay, so Community Health Committee, I'm gonna just pull up my notes here. Second. All right, so Community Health Committee, you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Community Health Committee met on Monday, February 24th, 2020 at 6 p.m. at the 1200 Del Amo Street offices. Dr. Bill Kim gave an update on COVID-19 and covered California. Tiffany Amit, the Blue Zones Project Associate, gave the committee an update on plant-based eating guide, an initiative that fell under the nutrition and exercise health priority. And then Tiana Rideout Rosales updated the committee on mental health and happiness workshop. So there's a new initiative that we launched originally to be in person, but they've been doing it online. And this fell under the social emotional health priority. Ali Stewart also gave the committee an update on the Youth Wellness Center grant and the Drug Freeze Community Grant Action Plan.
Okay. Thank you, Vish. Jane, Finance Committee.
Yeah, you just heard from Tom that our meeting is Tuesday the 16th at 6 o'clock. It'll be a virtual meeting, as all meetings are these days.
Thank you. I will report for the Policy Committee. The Policy Committee met virtually on Thursday, April 30th at 7 in the morning. The committee discussed the following. New Policy 5070, Emergency and Disaster Relief Grants, and the second advocacy position letter to the California State Water Control Board in opposition to the extension of AES Redondo Beach power. And our next meeting is yet to be scheduled, but will be forthcoming soon. Properties Committee, Vanessa.
The Properties Committee did not meet.
Okay. Strategic Planning Committee, Noel.
Strategic Planning Committee did not meet.
Ad Hoc Mind Health, Noel.
The Ad Hoc Mind Health Committee did meet. Hold on a second. I gotta get the report here. They met on May 5th to discuss the COVID-19 Safer at Home order and the BCHD research projects. Both the Live Well Kids Childhood Obesity Report and the Blue Zones Project Yale study article have been delayed because of the COVID problem. The Healthy Minds Initiative has stopped in-person meetings and has received an institutional review board approval to implement an online version of the intervention, which has begun. The committee also discussed partnerships with Gallup and Wellbeing Index for oversampling and potential to assess the COVID-19 pandemic's effect on the local well-being. The question was whether we should put off the Gallup for a year or try to do the Gallup, and recognizing the fact that, you know, there's a lot of COVID things going on.
Okay. Thank you, Noel. With these committee reports, do we have any discussion? Public discussion? Nope, nothing. We're going on to our consent items. And we have 8 of them, and we can take them all at the same time. And please call out if the board has any of these consent items that they would like to make a mention on.
I just want to, I don't know if we need to, Bob, if we need to take it out just to make a typo correction.
No, that's not necessary.
Okay, so the meeting February 26th, on page 37 of the public comment. Somebody should mute so you don't hear me twice. Page 37, it says aging in pace instead of aging in place. And it says that twice. And I just sent a message to Charlie so he has it written down so he knows where that is. And then in page 74 of one of the other meetings, it says cross-cutting instead of cost-cutting. That's it.
Thank you very much. All right, so we want to go Bob, I'm going to just, I guess, read into the record the entire list.
No, you don't need to read
it
all. You can just refer to it as all the consent items under section 6 of the agenda. But do note that it's with the corrections The motion would be with the corrections noted by Vanessa.
Got it.
So I make a motion to pass all of the consent items in item number 6 on the agenda.
I second it.
Thank you, Jane. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. it's
Public
unanimous.
comment, public
Public
comment,
comment,
public comment.
public
Yep.
comment,
No public comment has been received.
okay? All right, all in favor was unanimous. No discussion? Okay. Let's go to our old business, which I don't see any. That's item number 7, and now that takes us to new business, item 8. Actually, it's I think it's 8A, but it's listed here on the agenda as 9. But this is the discussion and potential action item of the approval of Resolution 556, which is a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Beach Cities Health District requesting the Board of Supervisors of the County of Los Angeles to permit the Registrar Recorder, County Clerk, to render election services for an election of said health district to be held on November 3rd, 2020. And there's a document in your board packet for that. So with that, is there any, before we go into this new business, is there any public discussion for this item?
We need
Who's up for election this year?
Vanessa, Vish, and Jane,
Oh, just curious.
okay?
not you.
And
No, I didn't think it was me, but I was just checking.
it's always good to check.
Yeah, you never know.
So, okay, so.
But we need a motion in a second.
Motion and a second, please, a motion for this.
I so move.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Wait.
Public,
There was
public.
public
Discussion,
There are no public comments on this.
okay.
How about board
Board
comments?
discussion. Any
I
board?
just had a question about if they end up, because of the COVID situation, more of a drop off. The way we have it set up now, people go inside. Are we gonna look at some way of people being able just to hand their ballots so they don't have to go inside?
Mm,
It'll be something that we'll be working with LA County Registrar on.
All LA County will be getting mail-in ballots.
oh, good.
Yeah, that's what I figured because of the disaster from the machines the last time.
Okay,
The irony is that, you know, there was this big push to try and make everything electronic. And then they said, well, anyone can hack an electronic thing. So now they do electronic with paper backup, which makes a whole lot of sense.
okay.
So we'll just look at all options.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
so unanimous, approved. All right, the next item for new business is the discussion of the approval of Resolution 557, resolution of the Board of Directors of the Beach Cities Health District, adding a regular meeting date. That is also in your packet. So with that, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you very much. Any public discussion received? Comment?
None received.
Thank you. Any board discussion?
So we're doing this we're just marking one meeting as a regular meeting. We're not
Right.
setting a new schedule. We're just adding this into the schedule of the regular meetings.
Correct.
That's correct.
For June 17th, correct.
To replace.
So do I have a motion and a second? So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so it's approved 5-0 unanimous. All right. Board member reports, section 9. And why don't we start with Vanessa?
I think I've had a couple of one-on-ones with Tom. I don't know what time frame we're talking about here, so if I had more than one in that time frame, I had 2. And then I also had an ACHD committee meeting. And I have been nowhere else.
Lockdown. All right, thank you, Vanessa. Vish?
I've had, I think, 2 or 3 one-on-one meetings with Tom and also some ad hoc conversations in between. I've also been attending the Friday afternoon call for elected officials with Dr. Ferrer. And I found those to be very informative, and also proud to say that we're, as Beach Cities Health District, very much in line with what LA County Department of Health is talking and thinking. So we're both evidence-based, science-based, and very well aligned.
Thank you.
So I have also been attending those county updates for elected officials. And also I am scheduled to make a blood donation next Saturday.
Thank you. Jane?
And then,
Oh, sorry,
I also attended the Redondo Beach City Council meeting and a school board meeting in the meantime,
Excellent.
virtually.
Thank you. Jane?
Had one-on-ones with Tom. We had our policy meeting, and I'm old, so I don't get to go anywhere.
All right. Okay, Noel?
I had the ad hoc meeting, my one-on-one with Tom, and in compliance with the recommendations. I haven't been out too much.
Okay. All right. So I too have been listening to the elected officials and participating. I think it's been excellent. A couple of one-on-one with Tom, policy committee. So that's the conclusion of our board member reports. And we have any questions or referrals to staff at this time? Yes.
I do. I'd like, Tom, a report, and I assume this will be included in the June 17th meeting, but what is the status of the bike path? The timeline on that, will they allow us to extend that timeline because of COVID disruptions? Also, a report on what the Portofino Yacht Club $5,000 check was, and to the board, and then also what is the status in terms of local facilities and COVID infections and deaths in local facilities.
This is Monica, so I can respond to the Portofino.
You don't have to do that now.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You sure? We can just knock that one out if you like.
Okay, knock it out. Yeah.
Okay, so it was the Spirit of Wellness hold for the event that we hold there. And it was actually voided since, and it was never sent out.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so that makes sense. That is an event that we hold there honoring our
that's right.
Health club members, Spirit of Wellness Awards. Yeah, okay. And, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Vish, any questions?
Yeah, so as I mentioned briefly earlier near the beginning of the meeting, I've seen a lot of, in my community, people sort of, as things open up, confusing that we've opened up so the virus is over. Some of the comments I've heard around, I've already done my part. I quarantined for 2 months and now I'm done. And so I think my question or referral to staff is to make sure that in our messaging, we really highlight some of those things that just, there's an opening of the economy because there's economic need to open up, but it doesn't change anything about the virus. It's still out there. It's still contagious. The contagious level of it hasn't gone down. So just a little bit of, I felt like our messaging was right on the ball when we were in quarantine, but now as we're out of quarantine and we're moving into this, opening up, I think our messaging needs to be even more relevant to that opening up. That let's not confuse opening up with it's over, it's done.
Excellent comments. And Noel?
I don't have any comment really. I think the boards, the district's doing a good job considering the circumstances, and we'll just muddle through and see how things go.
Absolutely. Jane?
No additional comments. It's just amazed how we were able to get on things and continue to be on things, and there's still more things that everybody will have to take care of, and they do it well.
So mine ask would be it kind of takes where Bish left off, but the whole concept and those that had listened to the elected officials. And when you read about the phases towards reopening, I like the idea of making sure that we want to do the physical distancing and masking. That is an area of definite confusion. And then just looking how we will talk about those phases. I don't know that we have anything. I have to look back on the BCHD website, but that seems to be a little bit of confusion. And I think that really goes nicely to what Bish had mentioned about getting that kind of that plus sign in there. But in overall, I think the graphics, the information, everything has just been superb. I think that the only other comment I would like to see is that in terms of the had it here. I can't read. That's just like a doctor. I can't read my own writing. Okay. The issues that on the Healthy Living Campus, I'm really looking forward to at our upcoming meeting, if we could even at our pre-meetings for everyone, if we can kind of break down those that one slide that showed the net revenue and losses, and just demonstrate in the future what that looks like, what was missing. Like in other words, Adventureplex is out, CHF is out. Just break that out a little bit more, if that would be great. So because the revenues from that were X%, or what did that represent? That's something for staff later, so we can talk about that. But otherwise, I would just say that it's been difficult. I think that we don't know what the future, September, if we get a coexistence with influenza and COVID. So the work that's been done, the groundwork of this DOC has been simply remarkable. So on behalf of the board, I want to say good night and adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.